Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to my Star Wars Rebels finale review / breakdown. This is going to be sort of a rambling video, so if you're interested more in my structured content, this probably isn't the video for you. Don't worry, we'll have new stuff coming tomorrow. So Star Wars Rebels just had its 3-episode finale. Now, I wasn't the biggest Star Wars Rebels watcher, I haven't seen every episode, and that's not because I don't like the series or I was mad at the Rebels for replacing the Clone Wars, but really I just got a little bit far behind. Before I started my YouTube channel, I wasn't super interested in the series and I never really got fully caught up, but I have been watching most of Season 4. Season 4 was definitely the strongest season, and really ever since Thrawn was introduced, my interest in the show has definitely increased significantly, especially after reading the Thrawn canon novel. So let's now talk about the full episodes. The first was called A Fool's Hope, then we had Family Reunion and Farewell, which was a double-length episode and really 2-in-1. I will be talking fully about spoilers here, so if you haven't watched the episodes yet, you might want to come back later. My expectations for the finale were fairly high. We've had some really great moments in the last few Rebels episodes, from the World Between Worlds to of course the death of Kanan, and I think Rebels is actually a really good show when it focuses on plot and moving the overall story forward, and given that this was the finale, that was certainly something that was going to happen in these 3 episodes. The first one, however, I think was fairly disappointing. It was filled mostly with small scale action, and the action that was in the episode I think was a bit underwhelming. Not much was done for the story. This is something that's sort of plagued Rebels throughout the series in my opinion. People standing around for minutes at a time, kind of just ducking and weaving away from blaster fire, shooting at stormtroopers. It's not really very compelling, there's no tension there, but I guess I understand it. I will say a few characters really did stand out, however. Sabine was really cool throughout the entire fight. She must have taken out like 30 or 40 guys. Ezra has shown his development with the Force and his lightsaber, and the scene with the Lothal where they basically come out of the darkness behind Ezra was really cool and kind of continues the whole theme of the Force really actually taking a much more prominent role in the story. I will say though, one thing they did way too often, not only in these episodes but just generally, was throwing Rook off ledges. It would be like every 5 minutes someone would take him, whether it was pushing him off with the Force or the Lothal throwing him. Like, we know he's an exceptional climber. We're not fooled anymore by shots of him being thrown down a hole because we know that he's found something to latch onto. That was done way too much, although they did apparently kill him off later on, which I thought was an interesting choice. I really thought that he would actually impact Thrawn's storyline a bit more directly, sort of as a call out to Star Wars Legends, but we have a lot of expanded universe material, old expanded universe material in this episode, so we'll talk about that later. One other small complaint that really isn't very important but still kind of bugged me was the Empire's over-reliance on that one dropship model. It was kind of disappointing to see one of the last major battles just be between some ground-based rebels and some hovering dropships. Would have been nice to see some TIE fighters, maybe some Rebel starfighters, and maybe just some more interesting equipment. Overall, the first episode was fine. I think a lot of what happened was a little bit boring. I wasn't necessarily paying attention to all of it like I expected to in a finale, but let's move on to the second and third episode, which I'm sort of going to treat as one because I actually saw them put together, so I don't even really know when episode 1 or part 1 finished and episode 2 began. First of all, I just want to say that it was really nice to see basically the entire gang back together. That was a good thing, and that really helped the feel of the finale, especially when, it did feel like anyone could die after what we saw with Kanan a few episodes ago. I don't really love Lothal. I don't love the Save Lothal storyline, so that already kind of put me off the finale, but I think they still handled it fairly well. It's a little disappointing that they were clearly limited by the fact that the Battle of Scarif was supposed to be the first major victory of the Rebel Alliance. It would have been nice for the gang to get in one last major space battle or to do something that would help the Alliance as a whole moving forward, kind of to connect them with the greater, mythos. I don't think the liberation of Lothal is necessarily the most important thing, the most important event of the war, and I would have just liked something a bit more consequential. It didn't bother me that much, but it was just kind of a personal preference type of thing. I have in my notes that it was funny to see Azadi pretending to be Yularen, and that was one of my favorite moments in the 3 episodes. I also liked Thrawn's introduction and the orbital bombardment. It was really great that they used a modified Emperor's Throne Room type theme, but once again, Rebels is really blowing it with how it portrays orbital bombardment. You know, these are ships with massive turbo lasers shooting at the ground from close range. We shouldn't have tiny explosions. And this isn't a situation like before where you could argue that Thrawn isn't actually trying to kill anyone, he's trying to cause major destruction. This sort of inconsistency with the lore and really just lack of thought, I would argue, really bothers me, and it's gonna make my job as someone who looks at, space battles and the power of spaceships really annoying for the next little while. I did, however, also enjoy the relationship between Sabine and Ezra. It's really been fun to see how the two have grown together. I liked when Sabine basically allows Ezra to sacrifice himself by distracting the group. This is one of many thematic ties to The Last Jedi. Jedi allowing themselves to do what the Force wills, putting themselves in danger, and everyone else realizing that sometimes that's necessary. The scene of Ezra actually confronting Thrawn for the first time was just okay. I still don't think they have Thrawn nailed down as a character, and he's certainly pretty different from how he appears in his novels. He's a lot more rash and emotional. I mean, he's not super emotional, but for Thrawn, any sort of outburst is fairly significant. And he's less composed, he's less analytical, and it seems like the rebellion is always getting the jump on him. Thrawn in canon is also portrayed so far as being fairly cold, but not necessarily cruel. Later on, he says what matters is who's in power. That personally just stuck out as something that I don't feel he would say. During that same scene, I was totally expecting Ezra to snap for just a second and force choke Thrawn. That would have been a nice callback to the expanded universe with the Outbound Flight and the Thrawn trilogy. Later on, we have the Sheev hologram, which was one of my favorite parts of the entire finale. I love the fact that the Emperor uses his younger self when communicating with the public. That's something we saw another time in Star Wars Rebels, but we've never seen him for this much screen time. It was totally believable as Palpatine to me. They got Ian McDiarmid, which I thought was really awesome. My only small complaint is why not use the crab hologram projectors from episode 1? We never see anything from the Phantom Menace in canon. I just wish they would have had the little walkie crab things that Palpatine and Sidious use in that movie. As he was in The World Between Worlds though, I will say that Palpatine was also very menacing and very frightening. I mean, I'm not sure if the switching between the Sheev and the Sidious form really makes sense logically, but it's fairly cool, and Rebels has done a great job of just making the Emperor seem really frightening. I like Ezra's conflict of duty versus the life that he wants to have. On a personal level, Ezra wants nothing more than to just return with his parents, but that sense of duty stops him from doing so, and he puts the needs of the galaxy before his own personal needs. That's something that's really explored in depth in the prequels, especially with Anakin and his responsibilities with the Jedi Order versus his love of Padme, and especially once the child is in the mix. And it's also something that pops up in the Last Jedi novelization based on some leaks that we've seen. I won't go any further to that because this isn't really the video for it. Moving on to the concluding bits of the series and of course the episodes, I was surprised to see Rook apparently die. I definitely thought that he would have more of a role in Thrawn's future. I was also surprised to see that Purrgil play such an enormous part in the Battle of Lothal. I think that's something that will be a little bit controversial amongst the community. I wasn't really a huge fan of it. It was basically the definition of a Deus Ex Machina. I didn't hate it, but I certainly didn't love it either. Probably my most oh crap moment of the episode though is when Thrawn said Pelion's name. For those who don't know, Pelion is a very major character in the Star Wars expanded universe. It seems like they might have introduced him just to kill him off. I really hope that's not the case. If they've killed Pelion after 5 seconds of screen time and we don't even get to see him, I'll be so disappointed. There were of course other significant lore implications for the episode. The first and most major one is that Thrawn is probably not dead. Yes, Ezra and Thrawn went through hyperspace with the Purrgil, but I'd be really surprised if that was the end of our favorite Chiss. It could actually be a good thing. Hyperspace weirdness or, just being lost could be the reason why Thrawn is not present for most of the original trilogy. He could now pop up afterwards, he could do sort of a warlord thing, or he could still be a part of the First Order. Really, I would be surprised if Thrawn was dead, and I will be actually very angry if Thrawn is dead and he's killed in such a sort of silly manner. We also know that Ahsoka is still alive after the Battle of Endor, which is obviously very significant. Where was she during the major events of the Galactic Civil War? Who knows? She's got some time skip weirdness going on too, but I'm happy that there's still stories to be told from her life. I'd be very surprised though if she's still alive by the time of the sequel trilogy. We've also confirmed now that Rex was at the Battle of Endor. That was a fan theory for a long time Then David Filoni and the rest of the Rebels guys kind of teased at it, but now we know for sure. I mean, we don't know if it's definitely that one white-haired bearded man, but let's just say that it was. Then the strangest and most unexpected moment for me was the reveal of Jacen Syndulla. I expected Hera to have actually been pregnant, and I expected them to have a child, but for it to be named Jacen, a clear reference to the expanded universe and Jason and Jaina Solo, it was just, I was not expecting that. In my notes, I wrote Jacen Syndulla, haha, lol, what? And I think that well encapsulates how I feel, but I like it. I didn't have closed captions on. I don't know if it's spelled Jason or Jacen. I will say though, if they've named the character the same way as Jacen Solo, they better not waste him. Also, Ezra is still probably alive, I guess. We're not really sure, but we know that that's likely what some of the Rebels crew are doing. After the Battle of Endor, they're looking for him. I don't know like why they waited so long to actually, set out for him, whether they've got a message or something, but I didn't love Ezra as a character, although he did grow on me, so I'm not sure how I feel about him still being in canon. I definitely would have preferred if very clearly in the episode he died, but Thrawn survived. All in all though, I thought the finale was enjoyable. Again, they killed Rook. I'm fine with that because I didn't really love Thrawn's death in Legends. I get that it was artfully done and that it kind of represented his one failure with the misunderstanding of the Nogri people, but it's interesting now that canon will have to do something else with him. Otherwise, the changes or the additions to the universe I think were all pretty well done. I'd rate the first episode a 6 out of 10 just because it spent too much time meandering when we were running out of screen time, but the last two, which I'm going to kind of combine as one, I'd give a solid 8.5. In my version, we'd get a little bit more substantial of a battle. We wouldn't have the space whales, although you know what, it's weird but fine. Thrawn would bombard the planet from orbit and it would be a lot more devastating. And Ezra clearly dies while Thrawn survives. Also, give me Pelion, and I need him in the flesh. It's been too long. But still, very good episode, very good way to end the series in my opinion. Rebels did, I think it was a bit more kid-friendly than the Clone Wars was. I think the action in particular, not especially on the ground and in space, was a step down, as was the animation. But I think some of the things they did for the plot was pretty brave. I wish that we would have got a bit more of the Mortis family. We had them referenced, but they didn't appear to the degree that I expected they would, although we probably saw the daughter. But you know what, I'm happy that the show, existed, and I'm excited to see what Dave Filoni and the rest of the Star Wars animation team have for the future. Anyways guys, this has been EckhartsLadder. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of the episode, what you want to see for the next Star Wars animated series, and I guess what your favorite Star Wars Rebel episode ever was, and what your favorite moment from the last 3 was. Thanks for watching guys, until next time, may the Force be with you.